Hello and welcome to another episode of the Web Marketing Series. I'm your host, Matt, and thank you as always for joining me. So it has been a little bit of a break here between the last episode, which is mid to late December. I didn't make a single episode in January, and my apologies for that. I did want to give a little bit of time for everything to kind of stew in terms of advertising so that when I reported next to you, I actually had something interesting to say and or at least report. And I think I absolutely do now. So to get into that, let's talk about sales. So if I look at sales over the last 3 months, starting in November I had 4 sales. And by the way, just to be clear, I do have 2 different products. So I have like a cheap version, a hosted version of my software, which is much cheaper than the purchase outright option. So I have 2 options. One right now is on sale for $9 a month, and the other one, and that's a recurring subscription. And then there's another one that is $110 upfront. With, by the way, discounts for educational users. Anyway, so there's a couple different pricing tiers, sales, and kind of mixing both of those together. But in November, I had 4 sales, which is an absolutely terrible month, just to be honest. In December, I had 7 sales. In December, I was happy to have a few more than November, but also kind of realizing that there's holidays in between there, and most people aren't, buying software. And then things absolutely blew up in January. I had 17 sales. It is, without question, one of the busiest months I've had in my company in years now. Busiest in terms of not only sales, but also interested parties, people asking questions about the software, asking questions about the company, requests for consulting, just email volume, like the day in and day out number of questions I was answering, feature requests. It was crazy. I'm a pretty busy guy already. I do not like downtime at all, but even still, last month was an outlier in terms of how busy I was. And it was phenomenal. If you're one of those users who decided to jump in and try my software, I cannot thank you enough. It means it's almost surreal sometimes when somebody believes in you enough, especially as a small operation like I am, to actually spend money with you and try you out. And hopefully, if you're one of those new users, you've seen that I am super dedicated when it comes to making sure that your purchase is rewarded with the best service you've ever had. What I do is not always simple in terms of a product. A lot of my users are pretty advanced folks, and so whatever. I'm not going to go too deep into it. It's just incredibly rewarding doing what I'm doing. And the month of January was the first time in a long time that things started to feel like maybe they were going to start recovering again. Of course, the trick is, what in the heck caused it? If you've been watching this series, you know that we've been trying a few things like advertising, making this video series, but that's basically it. Actually, let's just say it right outright. I've made this video series, which are getting almost no views as of right now. It's more just me talking to myself at this point, but hopefully, again, at some point, this will be useful. And then my advertising, just as a very quick summary, is doing very little. I spent $10 once just to kind of try things out. The next video, I'll talk specifically about those strategies, but suffice it to say, I had like 11 clicks. 6 of those, as far as I could tell, were people that just abandoned the site right away. I then kind of changed some parameters around, and I had, of those like 11 clicks, maybe 4 or 5 were actually people that seemed like they might be interested in the software. And even though this isn't a perfect metric, from what I can tell, Google AdWords doesn't say I've had a single conversion yet. So the question then becomes, what in the heck changed? Well, it's pretty obvious what changed if we actually look at the data. And so that's what I want to spend this video doing, is kind of looking at the data and seeing how we can interpret, whoa, I've gotten 10 more sales than last month. What in the heck changed? And by the way, I don't have all the answers here. I have answers for you as the viewer, because there are things that I don't understand, and some things have happened since this really big month. It's the 3rd of February now, where things seem like they might be taking a turn for the worst again. Of course. So I wanted to talk about that. So let's get into it. So first things first, let us talk about where this extra sales push came from. And again, I said it's pretty obvious, and it is. Here is the last 2 months of sessions on the site. If we look at January 1st, I think it is pretty obvious to tell the difference in terms of clicks, visitors on the site, that I was getting over the previous month. So I was getting a lot more in January than I was in December. And this actually then not super indicative of where these people came from. We could actually find that out, but I actually want to go into the Search Console to give an impression of where maybe some of these visitors would come from. And what's interesting about some of these numbers is they're a little bit ambiguous at first. In terms of, you can see that the impression numbers from January to December aren't hugely different. Some days, however, there's significantly more impressions, almost twice as many, but it's actually becomes really easy to see when we filter in clicks, and you can see that just overall, there were almost twice as many clicks, right? So 644 to 378. I mean, there was a lot more activity here. And one thing that I've always felt really confident about is when people know about my product and my site, I do very well, right? I know you could apply that to a lot of things, but I do like to think of it as the site that you visit. My storefront loads fast. It is informational. It makes it easy to contact me. It provides a good overview of the software, my policies, privacy policy. Like, I like to think that it's not, I got 1,000 clicks, but I got fewer sales, right? Like, more clicks, more visitors to my site means that more people find out about me, and those are happy visitors to Google, and everybody's happy. I get a sale, I get to keep my business running the way I want to and possibly grow it. It's a win-win for everybody. And so that's clearly visible here. And then the other thing I think that is slightly interesting is if we look at position, this, just like impressions, is actually really ambiguous. So my position on average went up just the teeny tiniest bit in January, but it is crazy to think that just a 2-slot position jump on page 2 on average would equal that many more sales. And so I feel like what actually happened was that for a few specific keywords, I was ranking much higher, right? And so in other words, on aggregate, yes, I was only 2 slots higher for most things, but for some things specifically, I was ranking much higher. But so that's where I'm at. That's like, looking at this data, I think that that's what it was, is that my position went up just a little bit. Some keywords ranked much higher, and therefore I just got visitors to come on. So it's not rocket science. But then it kind of takes us to the current day. So the reason why this is the first update in basically since December is because I was too darn busy in January to do anything like sit down and make a video like this. I literally didn't have enough time for anything. And so kind of looking forward to this next month, the reason why I have time to do this is it feels like I may actually switch positions again. I feel like this bump that I've had has come to an end and I'm back down to where I used to be. And the reason why I say there's really 2 reasons. First off, I haven't had a sale for 2 days now. Now, that is a pretty, for me, it used to be that you'd get 1 or 2 sales a day. In January, it was more that I get 1 or 2 sales a day, and then there'd be like a pause of a day and another sale. A few small gaps in there, but now I'm getting a little bit worried because I haven't had a sale for 2 days. But more importantly, far more importantly, is that I haven't had any user inquiries, right? So during January, it felt like the days of old where I was answering questions from you, potential users. Like, hey, does it do this? Does RackForms do that? What about this feature? What's your support like? Do you do consulting? Like, basically, interested parties, leads, would then turn into sales, or they hopefully would. And that is one thing that has not at all happened in the last 3 or 4 days, is it feels different. The 230 emails I got in the last week of January has been, well, it's Wednesday now and I've only gotten 40 emails, right? Like, it's almost a direct correlation between the number of clicks that I get on the website and the number of emails that I get. And just like December was such a huge change from January, now February seems like a huge change from that again. And so I'm really worried that whatever this rise was has been undone. And of course, that raises a far more interesting question than, what caused the rise? Well, what would potentially cause a downfall? And I think I may have something that's really terrifying if true, but something that it was basically the only thing I can latch on to. So to end this video, I will just say that when I went on to check on my advertising campaign, again, the next video we're going to talk specifically about this, but I had put my first $10 in, and then I was tweaking the campaign. I put my second $10 in, and I went to go check it the other day, and I end up seeing this: site suspended for every one of my ads. I usually like to be professional in these. Not professional. I usually like to be very informational. I will just say personally that when I saw this, this has literally been the story of my life in business. Is every freaking time things start going well, there comes along something where I get punished for something, and I'm just left saying, why am I being punished for this? That was absolutely the case with my first Google penalty, and now there's this. So what is this? Well, I noticed this for the first time, I think was right around the 1st of February. So right when my clicks started going down, right when I noticed I wasn't getting a lot of activity, I think is when this happened. And so if you mouse over this right here, you get this little message that's suspended. But yes, when you do this, it says, here is what policy was violated. Here's why you can't show ads anymore. And it says unsupported content, free desktop software. What the heck does that mean? Well, if you go onto RackForms and you are, let's just paint a picture here quickly. You're looking for web form software. You typed in web form software in the search bar. Maybe you came to here. Maybe a friend told you about this. Ignore that for a second. Let's say I'm looking for a database software. Let me say I'm looking for a drawing program, just something. If I perform a search and I go to a website, what would you rather prefer? A site that just has a paid product, or a site that has several versions of a paid product and a free product? Not just a free trial, a free product. I think we would all agree that we want to have somewhere that is more inclusive, right? Show me a couple paid options, but hey, wouldn't a free version be awesome? Yes, actually it would be awesome. So a couple years ago, I spent an enormous amount of time and resources, and I created a free version of RackForms. And it's a plugin. You basically install the WordPress, and it gives you like a full version of RackForms that is in WordPress. It's beautiful. It's built right in. It is really, really cool, and it's something I'm super proud of. The idea is never to make money off this thing. The idea is really just to maybe spread the word about RackForms a little bit, but also give back, right? Like I actually have an open source software section that I have on my site as well. Where the heck is it? Right here, where I like to put stuff out there. I don't want to just be somebody that charges for software. I like being able to put stuff out there. And so anyway, I have this free version that you can put on your site. And I think as a visitor to a site, if you spend the time to click the link in Google or whatever search engine you use and you go to my website, I think it is pretty freaking cool to say, oh, there's some purchase options here. And not only do I just have one option, I have two. So it kind of covers different budgets and use cases. But oh, by the way, there's also this free version. And the free version has a really easy install and uninstall process. It has like a nice video that shows you what it is. We talk about the version. We have terms like we have all this stuff here to say this is something that may help you. May not be for everybody, but it's something cool. It's free. Check it out. And unfortunately, that is why this has happened. So basically, when you research this, it turns out that Google has some new policies, which I'm not trying to sound petty here, but I never heard about this. They just apparently came up with this policy and decided to start putting out there that a site like mine that gives away software is violating this policy. And what I'm absolutely terrified of is that not only has this affected my site's reputation on AdWords to the point where they literally have just shut me down in terms of advertising, but what if this is also affecting me with organic search as well? What if I'd finally started doing good, right? I've got this bump in traffic. Google trusts me. They're like, hey, we send people to this site, and these people, they stay on the site for a while. It's like a good link. It makes us as Google look good. And all of a sudden, well, actually, no, look at this. This guy's violating one of our policies. And even though the policy in this case is somebody giving away a really cool piece of free software that doesn't do anything bad to your computer, like it's just a free plugin that builds forms that's like done by the generosity, like the hard work that I did. Whatever, get a little bit emotional about it, but that apparently, maybe that's the reason why I have my what I feel like is a failing again now, and it just kills me to think that trying to do right is just repeatedly getting me punished. Right? It's almost like, well, don't be generous. Whatever. I think that as a policy, it's a good thing. If there's one thing that's incredibly annoying is when your friends type in Firefox or Chrome or whatever, and you get an ad in Google that says, hey, download Firefox here. And you notice they don't have these anymore because this policy has also fixed this problem, but you would get ads for people basically advertising a malware version of Firefox or Chrome or IE, whatever it else was. And so they would take out ads. And I said, well, I'm going to pay a little bit for an ad. It's going to be not Mozilla.org. It's going to be like download something.com, whatever. And it's some hacker that has basically created an adware infused or a spyware infused version of Firefox that you would download. I mean, I helped somebody over the holidays who had clearly done that, right? Whose computer was destroyed by spyware. This is a good policy. But what's absolutely confusing to me is that people like me who are giving away a program called Rack Forms Express on a domain called Rack Forms are somehow being penalized. And again, it's terrifying to think that, okay, well, I can't spend money with Google anymore to advertise. And by the way, they have a process by which you can fix this. So you can actually fill out this form to basically apply to say that you are the owner of the software and some information about you, which is totally fine. They also have some, not some, but a ton of best practices, all of which I agree with when it comes to software, and hopefully all of which I have. So we have uninstall instructions, terms and conditions, like install videos, like we make it very clear that's what the software is and how to uninstall everything. It's terrifying to think though that there's either some person or an algorithm that's just decided without, I think, actually giving it the proper due consideration that this is not some bad thing right here. And if it's important enough for them to actually say, we don't even want your money, then did this affect me organically? And I'm beating this point to death right here. I need to shut up about it. But I just can't tell you how much this kills me inside to think that maybe I was on the path to recovery, and because of this, because of generosity, I'm now just smacked down again. And now it's going to be months before I get my hits back, and I'm doing 3 or 4 sales a month because of this. It kills me, and I hope that's not the case. But with my record and my luck over the past 5 years, I don't know. So anyway, that's where we currently sit. Great month. And now it looks like a really bad month. We're going to obviously be back probably more now because I have nothing better to do. I don't have sales right now. So we'll be back hopefully in a couple days here to kind of circle back, put on a smiley face again, and talk a little bit more about our advertising. Hopefully by then, also this advertising issue will be fixed. Apparently, just as a quick preview, you fill out this form, you make sure your site follows the protocol, and then you can reapply to get reinstated on AdWords. I'm going to do that in about, it's Wednesday today. I fill out this form on Monday. Apparently it takes about 5 days for consideration. So we'll see where that leads us. And hopefully by then our ads will be reinstated so we can actually do some advertising again, because one of the points of this video series is to advertise, and I can't advertise right now. So I don't know. Sometimes I'm baffled by this whole freaking process. So anyway, hopefully that's not too much of a downer. I just want to be as upfront as I can with you guys that these are the challenges that I seem to face all the time. And so we'll be back next time. Thank you as always for watching. And please, I hate to say this, subscribe, leave some comments. I know right now these aren't getting a lot of hits, but hopefully we can build up a little bit of an audience in the future. So I'll leave it at that. See you next episode.